Okay, so today's process video is about another song called Senseless. Now, whoops, let's actually get to the track. Senseless sounds like this. So I took a risk with this one because it's obviously a sample. It's a sample of one of my favorite dudes, process video. So sampling what happened. There's a great video called "Everything's a Remix" or whatever by this dude. He's talking about, I guess, how everything kind of is a copy and reinterpretations, and how you can't call anybody a biter because everything's bitten, and we're all just kind of reabsorbing the past as we move into the future. That's collective culture. Hip hop does this thing or whereby with these cool MPCs, we sample stuff. And like, what it did is, ironically, it actually gave a second life to a lot of music and musicians and people whose careers and contributions to the world were totally ignored, or were being totally ignored by a record industry, or by an industry that basically just chews you up and spits you out. Like, there's this whole kind of vibe to have the highest turnover because there's a tremendous amount of talented people in the world. And even if you have a hit record, they'll they would ride that hit record for a year or 6 months or whatever, as much as they could get out of it, and then move on to the next one. And if it wasn't for hip hop, a lot of artists wouldn't have had their renaissance. Parliament, Funkadelic, with a lot of the West Coast samples, and obviously James Brown and the JBs, and a lot of this sort of musical stuff people wouldn't have found out about. So it's really important that sampling kind of exists, because it's a way of reintroducing old sounds to a new audience. And I like a lot of reggae hip hop crossovers and roots hip hop crossover stuff. And this is one of them. That samples by a guy named Desmond Decker, and the tune is called "Face of Fu Manchu" or "It Make." I think no, it's not. It Makes a different. Anyways, Desmond Decker is a really old, brilliant reggae artist from like way back, and he's I used to there's a Tears from My Eyes is a song I used to play on the guitar when I was younger, and to have the opportunity to sample it is awesome. Now, some weird stuff happened with, if you guys get into sample law, you find out about Bismarcky and like the United States government or whatever versus Bismarcky, where they actually busted up sampling law by taking Bismarcky to court because the whole technology didn't have a legal framework around it. They didn't have a way to stop people from resampling music of the past and making new songs out of it. Like, they just didn't expect that to happen. And I guess the wheels of justice turn really slow, and the people who are able to exploit the wheels of justice to sort of tamp down any creative expression finally got in gear, and they crushed Bismarcky's album, which is why the next one is called All Samples Cleared. And that actually happened in New Zealand as well, to a group called Misfits of Science, where they didn't clear all their samples. One of their tunes became really big in Australia, and then the record company that owned the licensing or the sing license to the song basically swung around the back end and pulled all of their stuff. I don't know if it was Misfits of Science. I think it was them, and I think it happened again to Fast Crew or something like that. Like, basically, um, a lot of people don't know how to clear samples. I'm going to neither confirm nor deny anything with the clearing of samples, especially in this era of like doing stuff online and whatnot and releases. Um, and I won't get too into it, but one of the main problems in the world is that people with a lot of money are capable of clearing the big samples, and a lot of they basically rewrote the existing copyright law to to grab a lot of stuff under one kind of umbrella, and maintain those umbrellas infinitely through the art of culture warfare and other things. Like, ask yourself, this has to do with like Michael Jackson, and he owned the Beatles catalog when he died. Like, so the fact that somebody else could own the Beatles catalog is ridiculous. The fact that anybody else can own like an artist catalog other than their family is also ridiculous, but anything can be bought and sold. And when it comes to music, like the rights to, music in perpetuity have been extended and extended and extended behind Disney. Anyways, this is turning into a really long lecture and I don't really mean to do it, but what the end effect is that only people with a tremendous amount of money are able to even afford to sample things and clear the samples. So that's why Jay-Z and Kanye are able to like just sample anything they want and then pay the sample clearance fees. But what made hip hop interesting was people who didn't have that kind of money basically getting access to a sample of a really well produced studio record and then arranging it in an entirely new way in an entirely new context. And what happens with the we have money to clear the whole sample is people just sample the whole song and put a beat behind it, which changes the way that sort of things go on. And sampling is really important. It's incredibly hip hop. I say that what's his name? Old Pulp Fiction, the director from Pulp Fiction, whose name escapes me right now, he's also hip hop because he samples old films and then like will literally sample a film technique and put it in what he does. So if you get the chance, watch the film Everything Is a Remix. You kind of get where I'm coming from. I do have opinions about just straight up biting, and what I was talking about is the way that people with lots of money being the only people to sample versus like a DJ Shadow, for example. I mean, Shadow's pretty paid right now, but his chopping of samples and like flipping samples or whatever is legendary. It has been really inspiring to me on a lot of different levels because he just, you could barely recognize it, and just other dudes like I'm just name dropping lots of different sort of, I guess, different producers that I really like, and I don't really mean to do that. I'm going to go now, but Senseless is the name of the tune. I tried to rhyme to it, and I didn't actually like the rhyme that I put on it, so I just put it on as an instrumental. And if people are like, "Hey, that has a sample," and then they want me to pull it from the album, I can because it's electronic. So as I move forward, I will seek a way. Like I'm gonna let the cat out of the bag. Cat out of the bag is that the studio that actually owns it closed 30 years ago, and yet the recording still sort of exists. And yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna put this on. Well, if like prayer to me when I'm big enough, and if me saying that actually caused me any trouble, I'm sorry. But anyways, I love you guys. Senseless. Super Space Trooper process video. Sample stuff if you can, clear it if you can, and chop it up and flip it as hard as you can. Okay, I'm out. Bye.